Thank you very much, everybody, for that kind welcome, that very warm welcome. I want to obviously begin by thanking Ted for his kind introduction and also for his unshakable support of the cause of the people of Ukraine. Give Ted another big hand. I also want to thank Wayne. It's really special that both Wayne and Janet are able to join us tonight. We really appreciate them having them here. It makes it all the more special an evening. And after that great reception he got from you, I'm glad to be reassured he's not planning to run against me. Colleagues from the Parliament of Canada and other levels of government, members of the Diplomatic Corps, supporters of the Canada-Ukraine Foundation, distinguished guests of the head table, ladies and gentlemen. Before I begin, I know many of you here will be taking part in two of Canada's, indeed two of North America's, great cultural festivals this coming weekend, the Bloor West Village Toronto Ukrainian Festival, and the Roncesvalles Polish Festival. Both of which, I'm told, are the largest of their kind in North America. So all the best to the organizers for two great community events for 2014. Ladies and gentlemen, friends, let me begin by saying how good it is to be here with all of you, in particular the members of Canada's Ukrainian community, a community that has done so much to help build this great country. I only wish it were under more pleasant circumstances. But comme vous le savez tous trop bien, nous vivons dans des temps incertains et troublants, dans des temps dangereux. As you all know well, too well, we live in an uncertain and troubling time, very dangerous times indeed. And few know this better than our friends in Ukraine. For generations, the Ukrainian people have been oppressed by outsiders, the Tsars, the Nazis, the Soviets. And now, in this past year, once again, they have seen their freedoms attacked, their peaceful existence broken. They have seen parts of their land stolen from them and occupied by a foreign invader. And even now, the integrity of their remaining territory is in danger, besieged by hostile forces intent on undermining that integrity, intent, indeed, on undermining Ukraine's very nationhood. The people of Ukraine seek a future of engagement with the West because they seek what we have in the West: freedom, democracy, prosperity. Sadly, Vladimir Putin wants to deny them that future. He seeks to destabilize and demoralize the people of Ukraine, to pull them back into a dark era of fear and of dependence on an aggressive, expansionist, and authoritarian Russian regime. You know, le sombre anniversaire d'aujourd'hui, celui du 11 septembre, me pousse à reconnaître une triste réalité. Les menaces que nous pensions avoir réglées sont revenus, nous troubler encore une fois. I'm prompted by today's somber anniversary that Wayne mentioned, that of 9/11, to acknowledge a sad truth. Threats we thought we had overcome are returning to trouble us once again. In the 13 years since the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and United Airlines Flight 93 were attacked, we have confronted terrorism in one failed state only to have it surface in yet another. And now an old foe, one we thought had been consigned to history, has risen once again in another incarnation to threaten the world's stability and security. Well, my friends, the same troubles may rise again and again, but the remedies do not change: resolve, strength, and an unyielding resistance to the enemies of freedom. And let us always remember What motivates the enemies of freedom? The need to cover up the failures of the models they represent. In this case, desperate to obscure his own failures of leadership, Mr. Putin has been stoking the fires of the crudest form of populist nationalism. Desperate to camouflage on his watch the struggles of Russia's present, the waning hopes for its future, he has been summoning instead ghosts from the past. Ghosts of an imperial Russia that have manifested themselves in his reckless and illegal annexation of Crimea and in the war now being waged first by his proxies and then, of course, today by his soldiers in Ukraine's east. They manifested themselves in the repulsive image of Ukrainian government soldiers, prisoners, being marched through the streets to be mocked and abused. A clear violation, not just of the Geneva Conventions, but of basic human dignity. They manifested themselves in the wreckage of Malaysian Airlines flight MH17, shot down over eastern Ukraine, killing the almost 300 people aboard, including Canadian student Andre Angel. We've seen it in the increasing number of civilians who have died as the fighting goes on. And now they have shown themselves in the latest Russian invasion and the cynical explanation that these troops were on vacation, donating their time. Really, really. The only truth we can be certain of in any statement coming out of the Putin regime is that the truth must be something else entirely. Alors que le peuple ukrainien fait face à un avenir incertain, deux choses demeurent constantes. D'abord, le peuple ukrainien continue d'aspirer courageusement aux idéaux occidentaux de la liberté et de la démocratie, quels que soient les obstacles auxquels il doit faire face. De plus, ce peuple jouit depuis toujours de l'amitié et de le soutien indéfectible des Canadiens et des Canadiennes. While the Ukrainian people face an uncertain future, two things remain constant. The first is that the Ukrainian people will continue to aspire courageously to the Western ideals of freedom and democracy, and they will do so no matter what barriers are placed in their path. The second is that they will have, as they have always had, the friendship and the steadfast support of Canada and of all Canadians. And let me say at this point just how pleased I am to be able to support the Canada-Ukraine Foundation and the worthy cause that's brought us all here together tonight, and to salute the medical personnel who will be going to the aid of the Ukrainians bloodied in the Euromaidan protests and affected by the ongoing conflict. Congratulations to everyone supporting this great cause. It is, my friends, sadly too late to help the Heavenly 100 who were slain simply for the crime of seeking a better country. But we can help those who survived and live to continue the struggle. The support you show tonight has deep roots. It is historic and it is unwavering. In 1960, former Prime Minister John Diefenbaker stood before the world and demanded free elections for Ukrainians, then under the boot of the Soviet Union. In 1991, Brian Mulroney's government was the first in the West to recognize Ukraine's independence from that Soviet Union. And in 2008, Canada became one of the first countries to recognize the Holodomor, one of the most sinister crimes against humanity ever recorded. We recognized it for what it was, an act of genocide, and special thanks to my colleagues James Bazan for leading that effort in the Parliament of Canada. As you know, Canada, since 2004, has supported democracy in Ukraine by providing observers to monitor 7 successive elections. In fact, just earlier today, I received the report of this past spring's elections from the leaders of our observer team, Mike Harris and Renelle Andrechuk. I look forward to reading that report. I want to thank them, and I want to thank all of them who worked with them, including many in this room, for your dedication and your cause and your passion for the cause of Ukrainian democracy. Congratulations. Et mesdames et messieurs, je suis fier de vous annoncer que lorsque les Ukrainiens se rendront aux urnes le mois prochain, encore une fois, des observateurs électoraux canadiens seront là. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to tell you that when Ukrainians go to the polls once again next month, Canadian election observers will be there. They will be there to do their part, to try to help ensure that Putin's agents do not halt the expression of the free will of the Ukrainian people. As you know, since the current crisis began, Canada has worked with our friends and allies to encourage strong and unequivocal support to the people of Ukraine. We, along with our other G7 allies, canceled our meeting planned for June in Sochi, and we held it instead in Brussels without Mr. Putin. Until it is clear that Russia shares the values of the West, it has no place at the table alongside the free nations of this planet. Our Army, our Navy, and our Air Force have joined our allies in Eastern Europe to demonstrate our shared resolve to blunt the threat of Russian expansionism against our allies in the Baltics and Eastern Europe. We have contributed millions of dollars to projects that bolster democracy, the justice system, and civil society in Ukraine. And a few weeks ago, a Canadian Hercules from Canadian Air Forces Base Trenton touched down in Kyiv with a cargo of protective, medical, and logistical equipment to help the soldiers of Ukraine defend their sovereign territory. We have enacted sanctions against more than 180 Russian and Ukrainian individuals and entities linked to the attacks on Ukraine's sovereignty. And these are having an impact. Russia's economy, already struggling under Mr. Putin's regime, is now teetering on the edge of recession. Sadly, friends, Mr. Putin's reaction to all of this is to retaliate against his own people's access to quality food imports, which tells you all you really need to know about him and his regime. Canada will continue to seek concrete ways we can help the people of Ukraine in this struggle. We may not be Ukraine's most powerful friend, but we will always be its most certain. And ladies and gentlemen, to build on this strong and sure friendship, je suis très heureux ce soir d'annoncer que le président Poroshenko a accepté mon invitation de rendre visite au Canada et de s'adresser à notre Parlement, ce qu'il fera la semaine prochaine. Just to repeat that, friends, I'm delighted to announce that President Poroshenko has accepted my invitation to visit, and next week he will appear in Canada and he will address the Parliament of Canada. I know we all look forward to welcoming the President to our country and hearing his remarks. Now, friends, Some people may ask why Canadians have always been so invested in Ukrainian affairs. Indeed, I'm told that Mr. Putin himself has asked this question. Canada, he says, why does Canada care, he says? Canada is so far away from Ukraine. The answer, of course, is to be found in the generations of Ukrainians who have come here, who have helped to build this great country and who have inspired respect and admiration on the part of their fellow Canadians. Fleeing brutal tyranny and great privation, the sons and daughters of these Ukrainians have given our country 2 governors general, 4 provincial premiers, and numerous entrepreneurs, artists, scientists, professionals, and athletes of national and international acclaim. And of course, countless numbers of good friends and neighbors. There are now more than 1.2 million people of Ukrainian descent in Canada, the only places in the world, where there are more Ukrainians are Russia and, of course, Ukraine itself. So our answer to Mr. Putin is this. Beyond a shared sense of values, beyond our own sense of justice, of right and wrong, this is at the root of our deep friendship with the Ukrainian people, what makes their cause our concern. Notre appui constant à la population ukrainienne n'est pas seulement une question d'intégrité et d'idéaux. Ce n'est pas seulement une question de politique ou de l'art de gouverner. Pour nous, ce n'est même pas une question des affaires étrangères. C'est une affaire de famille, une affaire personnelle. Our steadfast support for the people of Ukraine is not just a matter of integrity or ideals. It is not just a matter of politics or statecraft. For us, this is not even just a matter of foreign affairs. This is a family matter, and this is personal to Canadians. Yes, friends, for generations, Ukrainians have fled totalitarianism and imperialism, oppression and cruelty. But I'm here to tell you what the people of Ukraine are telling us. The time for fleeing is over. To Mr. Putin, the people of Ukraine have said no to a step backwards into the past. They have said no to a future tied to Russia. They have said no to subjugation and fear. And next month, when they cast their ballots, once again, it will be more clear than ever that they are saying no to Mr. Putin. Mr. Putin recently said that Ukrainians and Russians are, and I quote, practically one people, unquote. To Mr. Putin, we say, Ukraine is not Russia. In their hearts, Ukraine's people have never been Russian, and they will never be Russian. As many of you know, Canadians who have traveled to Ukraine to monitor recent elections have all returned with the same story, a story of the growing political consciousness among young Ukrainians, captured in the internet video viewed more than 8 million times of young Yulia Marushevska looking into the camera and saying simply, "We want to be free." And Canadians will not be content until she is. It has been more than half a century, since John Diefenbaker stood up to Khrushchev in defense of, quote, the freedom-loving Ukrainians. That a Canadian Prime Minister must do the same today is saddening to all of us beyond belief. Mais voici ce que nous disons à la population ukrainienne. Souvenez-vous que pendant votre lutte pour la paix et la liberté, le Canada est et sera toujours à vos côtés. But we say to the Ukrainian people, we say, remember, that during your struggle for peace and freedom, Canada is and Canada always will be at your side. Let me close, friends, with the words of the great Ukrainian poet, Taras Shevchenko, born some 200 years ago. He wrote, and I quote, "Struggle and you will overcome, for God is on your side. With you is the truth. With you will be glory and that most precious of all things, freedom." Thank you very much, everybody. God bless Canada. Slava Ukraini!